This video will cover the invasion of Taiwan in its full detail. This is the peak of China's glory days. So for this video, I'm going to rewind the clock all the way back to the summer of 1862, when China was ruled by the Qing dynasty under Emperor Kangxi, who is widely known as the greatest emperor of all time throughout Chinese history. He led the nation to peak territorial expansion, massive economic gains through the Silk Road. He was also responsible for putting down rebellions in the Xinjiang Autonomous Region, rebellions in Tibet, rebellions in Mongolia, and also conquering the island of Taiwan. During this time period, China had the #1 economy in the world. So, in the summer of 1862, he decreed the invasion of Taiwan through the Panghu Islands. Now, this is the reality of war. Sometimes things will get really ugly. Before the initial battle in the summer of 1862, 88 women were raped in the nearby villages. So during this time, many Chinese soldiers, they feared the worst before sailing out. Many feared death, and they thought the best thing they could do was to find some women and get some comfort before sailing out into the sea. So they went into the local village. Hundreds of women were sexually assaulted. There were confirmed of 88 cases of confirmed rapes. 2 young girls, one age of 13 and another at the age of just 16, were raped to death. The initial battle of summer of 1862. So the Qing Chinese forces, they landed a small victory, but it wasn't really a victory. They lost 5 warships out of 508. Commander Shi Lang, he used to work under the Taiwanese forces until they betrayed him, and all of his family was brutally slaughtered. So he turned into the Chinese side. He strikes first versus Commander Pulai. However, the tactics of the commanders above him, they decided to split the naval forces into 2 and aim straight for the island of Taiwan. This would backfire for Qing dynasty China, so they were ambushed from behind. As a result, they were forced to temporarily retreat, and the battle would go into stalemate. One of the commanders that recommended the strategy of splitting the forces in 2, he was demoted from the rankings and no longer in charge of the battle. Now time is running out for Taiwan. Long before the battle began, due to a naval encirclement around the island and severe economic sanctions for over 2 years, the island's resources are running dry. So, a Taiwanese delegation was sent to Fujian on the mainland side for negotiation. Many rounds were exchanged on both sides. Many letters were exchanged to the emperor and back to Fujian province. So the negotiations would go on for over 2 months, but eventually they would fall apart. So, Emperor Kangxi declares a new decree, decided that by August 30th of 1863, so it will be the end of Taiwan if they do not capitulate. This forced the Emperor of Taiwan, Yang Ping, into a corner. So Taiwan made a decision to abandon the island of Jinxia and focused all of their forces on the main island of Taiwan. So at this time, the Qing dynasty Chinese forces, they were also running short on resources due to months and months of negotiations on and off. So they decided to rob a nearby village. And during this robbery, 17 civilians were brutally murdered, and all of their livestock were taken. That's the reality of war. The fateful moment finally comes. It is July 1863. So the Chinese forces waiting on the mainland side, they're waiting for the wind to turn south. So, and that moment finally comes. So the southern wind is finally blows in Qing China's favor. And the meteorologists at the time determined that this wind will blow south for at least 5 days. So the Battle of Panghu Island ensues. 200 plus warships, led by over 20,000 sailors, sailed for battle. Commander Shi Lang used the placebo effect to boost the morale of the army. So he decided to flip 50 coins. He said that if the coins show heads, that means it's good fortune. That means they will win this battle for the Taiwanese island. But the truth is, both sides of the coin are heads. That's what they call a placebo effect. So Shi Lang would eventually gain total naval superiority. The battle reaches the mainland finally, and the Taiwanese Emperor Yang Ping, he decided to slice his own throat when he realized that all hope was lost for Taiwan. The casualties for this battle was over 5,000 for the Qing China side, and 12,000 plus for the Taiwanese side. The victory came at a steep cost for both sides. The entire Tuning Kingdom was surrendered to Kangxi's rule just a few days later. The island of Taiwan would be ruled by China for the next 211 plus years. It wasn't until China's humiliating defeat to Japan during the First Sino-Japanese War in 1894 to 95, yes, there was 2 of them, And during this battle, China would lose the influence of Korea. Korea would fall into dark ages for the next 50 years to the empire of Japan. Their entire culture was nearly wiped out. Over 200,000 Korean women became sex slaves for the Japanese soldiers. The island is also Jiang Jiechi's final resting place. So the remnants of the Chinese Nationalist Party, they fled to the island near the end of the 22-year-long brutal Chinese Civil War, which resulted in over 20 million deaths on both sides. So to the present day, China considers Taiwan to be its own territory, and they will use force if necessary to reclaim the island. Tensions between the two sides are at an all-time high right now, especially after Nancy Pelosi's visit to the island last October, and also after Tsai Ing-wen's visit to New York and California just recently. And there you go, there's a little brief history of the island of Taiwan. I will be visiting there in just 11 days. I will be staying on the island for 2 weeks. I'm hoping for the best, but at this point anything is possible. Like I said, martial law could be declared while I'm on the island, so I will be praying for everybody and for myself as I get ready to depart. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I will see you soon in the next video.